Recording in progress.
All right. Good afternoon, Shelby County. Good afternoon. My name is Cordell McGary. I am a professional chef with Eating Well with Chef Cordell Consulting. You can always find me online at www.chefcordell.com. So welcome to our first healthy cooking demonstration, where today we're going to focus on 30-minute meals. So in the next hour, we're going to breeze through 4 quick recipes. We're going to do Mediterranean chicken. We're going to do roasted Brussels sprouts. We're going to do shrimp scampi and pistachio pesto fettuccine. So these are really nice sounding recipes that are very tasty, but do not take very long for us to do. Okay, so just to give you a little bit of background about me, as I did mention, I'm a professional chef from Chicago. I've lived in North Carolina off and on for about 24 years. I focused on healthy eating, and I got into it as a teenager. One of the first things that my parents let me cook as a teenager was cornbread dressing, and it was for Thanksgiving. And a lot of people know how serious dressing is in certain households. It still ranks to me as the worst thing I've ever made in my life, but it really got me into wanting to understand more about cooking. So at that point, a couple years later, I ventured into selling cookies. So I would sell pastries and what have you. And that kind of got me into the mode of entrepreneurship. But then I looked at my neighborhood, and my neighborhood lost a grocery store. So my neighborhood became what's known as the food desert. So food desert is like an area that doesn't have any fresh, nutritious, affordable foods within a mile. So if we think about maybe some of the places that we are, we can kind of point those places out. So once I started to pay attention more and look at my family, its history, and neighbors and what have you, everybody was suffering from the same thing, which was hypertension, obesity, and diabetes. And that tends to happen a lot in food desert neighborhoods. So as I grew older, I really wanted to focus on cooking and see how it can help people actually become healthy. So I've been in the business as an instructor for 18 years, what have you, and I enjoy doing it very, very much. So sit back and relax. Please feel free to ask any questions that you may have, whether they have to do with the recipes that we're going to be cooking today or just food in general. Okay, you can unmute yourself, or you can just type it into the chat box and I'll catch it, or Joyce will read it to me. Okay, any questions before we get started?
I have one.
All right, let's get started. Yes. Mm-hmm.
I only want to see you. And I see everybody else.
Wait, I didn't understand your question. I'm sorry.
How do I only see you? I can see you in a little tiny square and everybody else that's online too.
Betty, you would need to choose. You would need to choose. Go to the top of your screen, go to the right-hand side, and hover over where it says View, and click on that, and then choose Speaker. So you'll see only the speaker and not the gallery.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And thank you for that. I definitely appreciate it. Definitely do.
Absolutely.
So now my screen is going to go black, and then once I put you back on, what you will see is my cutting board. So don't be like alarmed. That's the way it's set up. Okay. So give me 1 second here, and we are going to get started. I hope that everyone is having a wonderful day, though, to this point. I'm glad to see so many people here. That's great. Give me 1 second here. I got a few more people in the waiting room. All right, so let's get started. Okay, so as I did mention, we are going to be doing Mediterranean chicken, roasted Brussels sprouts, shrimp scampi, and pistachio pesto fettuccine. So as you come on, please put your tablet or device on mute so everyone can hear, please. Joyce, give me 1 second. Let me mute like everyone who's not muted. Okay, that's much, much better. Okay, so the first thing we're going to focus on today is going to be a very simple dish to make. It's going to be Mediterranean chicken. So if you have a copy of these recipes, you can feel free to turn to them If not, you can send me like an email and I will get that information over to you. All right. So in our Mediterranean chicken, we are going to be using 4 chicken breasts, and you want these to be boneless and skinless. Now, if you want to use chicken thighs, that's okay. Make sure it is boneless and skinless, and make sure that you get off the excess fat. Chicken breasts are very lean as they are, and thighs are a little bit fattier, so that thighs will have a little more flavor. All right, we're going to use that. We're going to use a little bit of kosher salt, a little bit of pepper, a couple of tablespoons of some olive oil, and we'll get to oils here shortly. We're going to use some olives, a couple of tablespoons of capers. We're also going to use a pint of grape tomatoes. If you want to use cherry tomatoes, that's perfectly fine as well. And about a half a tablespoon of thyme. Okay. So our first step here is to take our chicken breast or chicken thighs, however you're going to use. You want to use a little bit of salt and pepper on them just to kind of season them up a bit. You don't want to over season them at this point. And we'll talk about the importance of that here shortly as well. Okay. So I'm going to add a little bit of salt here. Now I'm using kosher salt. I'm a big fan of kosher salt, sea salts, pink salts, and what have you, black salts. I'm not the biggest fan of regular table salt. I'm going to add some black pepper to this as well. I'm not a big fan of table salts because table salt really, they've stripped away all of the natural goodness and trace minerals that our bodies need to be able to function and replaced it with like iodide. So at one point in the 1920s and 30s, people were thought to be iodide deficient. So if you put it in something that everyone eats, which is salt, then there you solve that problem. But what they found out years later was that iodide was present in a lot of the foods that we already ate. So I would definitely recommend, if you can, sea salt, kosher salt, pink Himalayan, and the like. All right. So we got that seasoned. Now we're going to come over here to our pan. We're going to add a little bit of oil to this. Now I'm using an olive oil here. Now I'm sure most of you guys know, if you use oils often, the prices of olive oil has kind of gotten out of control. It's very, very, very high. Now, there's something that you need to know about oils, though. So all oils have a different purpose. So olive oil is a really good oil for low to medium heat. Once you start to get too hot with that type of oil, it starts to break down. So all oils have what's called a smoke point. That point, the smoke point is the point that the oil can get to before it starts to burn. Once it starts to burn and break down, it's not really of much service. So olive oil is good for low, medium heat to a degree. If you're looking for a higher heat oil, let's say you want to look for sunflower oil, grapeseed oil, peanut oil, and the like, okay? Those have a much higher smoke point. Now, one oil that's hugely important for you to stay away from is canola oil. Very, very bad. So what canola oil means, canola, Canada oil, low acid. So that's what the canola means. At what point it was used to make machinery parts. Okay. But at a time where lard is shortening, where the oils of the day, it kind of put itself off as the healthiest oil out there. But what they found out was that it's made from a very toxic plant called the rapeseed plant. So it's very, very toxic to our bodies, okay? So now that my pan is hot, I'm going to add my chicken breast here and cook for about 3 minutes or so on each side, okay? So once you add the product to the pan, you definitely want to hear that sizzle, okay? It's hugely important. You want to hear that sizzle. All right. Any questions to this point? Okay. So we'll let that cook for a few minutes here, and we'll come off to the side here and work on our next part, okay? So actually, please, as you come on, please put your device on mute Thank you. All right. So this is being cooked right now in a stainless steel pan. Now there's several different types of pans that you have available to you. So I'll show you these here in 1 second. So this right here is a nonstick pan. Now nonstick pans are okay for certain things. I don't really recommend using them for very high heat because what will happen is you'll scrape off the body parts here, or you'll scrape off the nonstick coating if you have to keep too hot. Also, with nonstick pans, you want to make sure that you use nonstick utensil. This will prevent the coating from coming off. Now, if you use a metal utensil like this, what will happen is that you'll scrape off that bottom coating. So you want to be very, very careful with that. But this is a really good type of pan, but only for certain things. Now, I do like other types of pans, like copper pans. Those are really good because they hold heat very well. Cast iron pans are really, really good as well. Now, in order to tell if you have a good pan or not, what you want to do is turn the pan over and knock on it. You want to hear a deep, non-hollow sound pan. You need it to sound very dense. If it sounds tinny or thin, it's not a very good pan. And what will happen is it will cook food unevenly. So be very careful with that, okay? All right, so let's check on our chicken. We're gonna come and take a look at this. As you come onto the call, please put your device on mute. We want to make sure that everyone can hear me. Thank you. All right, so let's give our chicken a turn here. Let's see if it's ready to be turned. Yep. So you see how it's pulling off really easily without me having to struggle. That's when you know it's right to be turned. What you don't want to do is try to pull it off. If you pull it off, you're going to destroy the texture of the meat. So be careful with that. Okay?
Yeah, Cordell.
Yes.
Please make sure you're on mute and choose the speaker only view as you come onto the call.
Thank you.
I had a question real quick.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you using a silicone prong? It's silicone utensils good for like with the non-stick?
Yes, those are the ones that you definitely want to use for a non-stick. Because that'll help to, that'll help to not pull up that actual coating. So if you use metal, you definitely will scratch the coating and it won't really be non-stick. But you can also use the silicones on regular stainless steel, though. That's the difference. Yep.
Thank you.
But that's a good question, though. That's a good question. Okay, I see I missed a question in regards to the canola oil.
Right.
Yes, ma'am, I got you. So essentially what that is, it's a very toxic oil. It's made from a plant called the rapeseed plant, RAPESEED, which is very, very toxic to our body. So like I said, there are so many other oils out there that are much healthier for you. It just really depends on what you're looking to do with. That's the only thing. Okay. So I've turned my chicken over. Now I'm going to add my olives to this and also my capers. Okay. Now you can use green olives if you choose to. That's probably my favorite olive, but with this one, traditionally black is what you use. Okay. So we got our olives in. Now we're gonna add some capers.
I ain't never used capers.
Please have your device on mute, please.
Yeah, please put your device on mute. Thank you. So those were the black olives. These are the capers. Okay. Capers are these little bundles of joy. Lots of bitterness to it. I didn't like them as a kid, but as my taste sophisticated some, I definitely grew an appreciation for them. Okay. So we turn this over. Now what we're going to do is we're going to turn this on low. We're going to cover it. And we're going to let it cook for about, 3 to 4 minutes or so. And then we're going to come back to it with our next step, okay? Any
So
questions
Chef,
to this
I have a
point?
question about the olives. I know
Mhm.
that olives are put into a brine, you know, the olives that you buy in the grocery store typically. So should you
Correct.
drain those before adding to your recipe?
Yes, especially if you're well, yes and no. So if you hadn't used any salt before then, you could definitely add some of that because what it is that it's briny, so it's salty. So when you're looking to just as a general thing for your overall health, you want to be able to control what you can control. And a lot of that has to do with salt and sugar. So for
Okay.
instance, whenever you buy canned vegetables, you want to be able to rinse those off to get that extra sodium off. When you use butter, you always want to go for the unsalted butter because you don't know how much salt they put in that. And then we put extra salt in things. So, for instance, a lot of us sometimes cook with, let's say, our favorite all purpose seasoning like Lori's or Slap Your Mama or what have you. And then on top of that, we'll add salt. And then we'll add garlic salt. And then we'll add celery salt. And when you look at these things, the main ingredient in all of these things is salt. So whatever salt that you're going to use in the beginning, don't add too much in the beginning, but then when you add the other flavors, make sure that they're powders more so than salts. Does that
Okay,
make
thank you.
sense?
Makes good
Yeah.
sense. So there's another
Okay.
question in the chat box. When
Yes.
using healthy oils, is the portion amount also important?
Depending upon what you're gonna do. So if you're gonna saute, I just generally add a little bit of salt. I mean, add enough oil to the bottom of the pan just to barely cover the pan.
Okay.
So it just really depends upon what you're doing. But the smoke point has a lot to do with how long you're gonna use the oil and how high of a temperature. That's hugely important. Hugely important. I hope I answered that question for you.
You did, you covered it.
Okay, great. All right, so our chicken here is finishing off. We're going to let that chill out, and then we're going to move on to our next recipe, which is going to be our roasted Parmesan Brussels sprouts. Okay. I hated Brussels sprouts as a kid because my parents only know how to cook them one way, and that was boiling the hell out of them. And it just made me really detest Brussels sprouts. But of course, like I said, as I grew and my palate developed more and I understood that there's more than one way to cook vegetables, I really grew an affinity for them. Okay. So in this recipe, we're going to use about a pound of Brussels sprouts. We're going to cut off the stems and discard the bad leaves, about 3 tablespoons of oil, a little bit of salt and pepper, some Parmesan cheese, and about a quarter cup of panko breadcrumbs. So if you don't know what panko breadcrumbs are, this is what they are here. They're a lot thicker than regular Italian breadcrumbs. So when you go out and you get something crusted, they use that type of breadcrumb because it's a lot more texture to it. Okay. So first things first, we're going to take our sprouts here, put them on a cutting board, and we're going to cut through half of them. Now I've already rinsed these off, but what I'm going to do here, and let me zoom in a bit so you can see a little bit better. Give me 1 second. Okay, so first thing I want to do is take off this end right here and slice it in half, okay? Now, if you have any bad leaves, you want to peel those off. All right, so we'll run through these quickly. Cut them in half. Now, when you do this recipe, you want to try to make sure that all of the Brussels sprouts are relatively close to being the same size. Now, of course, they're not going to be perfect, but as far as cooking time, you want to make sure that they're kind of close to the same time. I mean, the same size rather, so they can cook relatively evenly. Okay. All right. So we got those ends off here, and now what we're going to do is we're going to place these in a bowl. We're going to add some olive oil, some salt and pepper to these, and we're also going to add our Parmesan and breadcrumbs as well. Okay. As you come on, please make sure that you put your device on mute, please. It just helps the class flow a lot smoother. Thank you. All right, so we got some Brussels sprouts here. I'm gonna try to get some close to the same size here. Give me 1 second. Okay, that's about right. Okay. So these are all about the same size, all right? So we're gonna grab our oil Add a little bit on there. Okay. Add a little bit of salt and pepper here as well. Now, if you want to switch to cayenne pepper, that's perfectly fine. Or even if you want to use white pepper, that's fine too. You know, white pepper is a little bit of a different flavor, but they both are good though. I think I'm going to add some crushed red. Oh, I got some black pepper. Here we go. And then we're also going to add some Parmesan and some breadcrumbs. All right, so I got my breadcrumbs here. Sprinkle those on top. Add some Parmesan to this as well. Now we're going to give these a nice mix here. And the oil will help that stick to it. Now, the first step in this was to make sure we had our oven preheated to 400 degrees, which I already have done. Now, keep in mind, whenever you are cooking something that needs to go into the oven, there is a reason why they say preheat your oven at the first step, because you don't want to have your dish ready and you either put it into a cold stove or you have to wait for the stove to heat up. If you put it into a cold stove, what'll happen is it'll throw off the cooking time and the texture. So it won't be exactly the way that you want it to be, okay? So now I'm gonna take these Brussels sprouts here. Now what I generally do is take the crumbs that are left here, sprinkle these on top, okay? And I'll take a little bit more off the side here and just sprinkle that on top too as well. So I'll just take a little bit more of the breadcrumbs, sprinkle those on top. Maybe a little bit of parm too, okay? And if you want to get really fancy, what you can do is take a lemon or a lime. Now, this is not in the recipe, but just take a lemon or a lime. Make sure you wash it off well. Grab one of these bad boys here. And what we're going to do is we're going to grate the lemon skin onto the Brussels sprouts. So what that does, this is called a zest, a zester. And what we're doing is we're zesting the skin off. So what that does is it gives whatever you're adding it to the flavor without the taste. So you'll taste the lemon flavor, but it won't be nearly as sour, okay? So now that we've gotten that done, I'm gonna take this, put it into my preheated oven and let it roast for about 15 to 20 minutes, okay? And about halfway through, you wanna just turn it around, okay? Give me 1 second, I'll be right back. But if you have any questions, please feel free.
Someone just submitted another question, Chef. The question is whole wheat or whole grain fettuccine healthier to use, particularly for those who are diabetic or pre-diabetic?
Yes, 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 and yes. Whole wheat is always the way to go. So let's talk about that for like a second as we check on our chicken here. Okay. So my chicken right now, just and Joyce, I'm gonna need you to repeat that question. Just let me check on this real quick, okay? So our chicken is in, the olives are going, the chicken is almost done. So now the only thing I'm gonna do at this point is add my tomatoes. I'm gonna add my herbs as well. So I got my tomatoes here, left them whole. I'm gonna take my herbs here. So I'm using thyme. So thyme here, let's go up to the side. So a few things. So this is thyme, one of my favorite herbs. Doesn't have a huge amount of flavor, but really helps to bring out the flavors of other things, okay? So this is what thyme looks like. So in order to get it off, what I do is take it at the top and just slide my fingers down, okay? So I'm just gonna do that real quick here. Now, when it comes to herbs, and then Joyce, I'm gonna get to your question. So when it comes to herbs, it's very important. Now, I don't know how many of you use herbs at home. I use herbs every day, okay? Now, there's a difference between dried herbs and fresh herbs. If a recipe calls for fresh herbs and you only have dried, because the dried is much more flavorful, you want to use half. If the recipe calls for dry herbs and you only have fresh, then you want to double it up, okay? That's one thing. Second thing, when you get your herbs from the grocery store, the first thing I do, I take a storage bag like this and poke multiple holes with a fork all the way around the bag. I put the herbs in the bag, but then I also put a damp paper towel in there. So not only is it getting moisture from the paper towel, but it's getting air from the bag having holes in it. Then I put it in the refrigerator. It lasts at least 4 to 5 days longer, at least. Okay. Now, before they go out, before they go bad, rather, and you have to find a usage form, what you want to do at that point is to take them, chop them up, put them in a ice cube trays with like individual ones. So rosemary here, thyme here, so forth and so on. Put them in ice trays, cover them with some olive oil or some grapeseed oil, what have you, at least halfway up. Put them in a freezer, freeze them. After they freeze, take them out and put them in individual bags for each herb. Then when you're cooking something and you can't figure out, man, I wish I had an extra flavor boost, you can go now to that freezer, those frozen herbs, and add that to the dish. And now you have an extra flavorful dish. All right? So Joyce, that question again, I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem. Is whole wheat or whole grain fettuccine healthier to use, particularly for those who are pre-diabetic or diabetic?
Yes, yes. And that was my point. Yes, I'm sorry. Whole wheat is better in every situation. Every situation. So most times we understand that that whole wheat is better than white products. So we associate that with flours, with rice, and with other things, okay? So for instance, brown rice and white rice are the same thing. What they've done to get to the white rice is pull off the outer holes of the brown rice. Now that reduces the cooking time, but it also reduces the nutritional value as well, okay? So in knowing that brown products are healthier than white products, which eggs are better, brown eggs and white eggs? Anybody can answer that question. Which eggs are better, brown eggs or white eggs?
Not sure.
Brown.
Okay, so yeah, most people say brown. Most people say brown because they already know, and we'll get into grocery stores and how marketing works. But in marketing, they understand that we know brown is healthier than white. The only difference between brown eggs and white eggs is the color of the bird that lays them. That's the only difference. But because they already know that we know that most brown stuff is healthier, they get you to pay $2-3 extra bucks for those eggs, and there's no nutritional difference at all. So understand how grocery stores work too. So for instance, if you think about grocery stores, they're all set up pretty much the same way. Okay, you got your produce section in bright lights, generally off to the right side or left side. And then you have all the aisles, and then you have to walk all the way to the back to get to your staples, the stuff that you came in there to get, the bread, the eggs, the cheese, and what have you. They're all set up that way intentionally, for the most part, to get you to go through those aisles, to have to pass through the aisles where the garbage is. Just as a general rule of principle, it's a lot healthier on the perimeter of the store than it is on the inside of the aisles, okay? And as I say very often, a lot of the stuff that your body needs to function is in that produce section. A lot of it is. I think that the produce section should be looked at as our pharmacy. Everything that your body needs, for the most part, is there. Okay? All right, so moving on. So let's see if this chicken is done. Now, what you want to do, you can take a thermometer, and I suggest getting a digital one or like an infrared one, in order to be able to determine the temperature of the meat. Now, chicken needs to be cooked to 165. I have a thermometer, but if, let's say at home you don't and you're in a pinch, this is what I want you to do. Okay, take your hand, stick it out like this. Come on, YouTube. All right, so right up under your thumb, you want to feel right here, okay? Right up under your thumb. This is what rare meat feels like. Drop your index finger to your thumb. See how I got a little tougher on the inside right there? That's what medium rare meat feels like. Drop your next finger, both touching your thumb. It gets even tougher. That's medium. Third finger, all touching your thumb, medium well. All four fingers, well done. So rare, medium, medium well, well done. It's not an exact science, but it works pretty darn well. So when you do this here, you want to then come back to the meat and touch it on the top and fill it on the sides to make sure it matches up with this. All right. Okay, so got this done here. So now I'm just going to plate this up here. And we'll move on to our next couple recipes, okay? We got chicken breast here, which is nice and done. Your husband is a meat toucher, huh? I hear you. And that works with all meats. Like, it's it's not specified to chicken or what have you. It just, as a general principle, it works, all right? So this is our Mediterranean chicken. We back up here just a little bit here. This is our Mediterranean chicken, okay? Any questions about this? All right. We're gonna move on here now to our next recipe. And give me 1 second, I'm gonna rotate to Brussels sprouts. But if you have any questions, please feel free to shout them out. Okay, so my Brussels sprouts are starting to get a little bit of color on them, which is great. But I'm gonna give them another 5 to 10 minutes to finish off, okay? So our next recipe is going to be our shrimp scampi, okay? So with that recipe, or in that recipe rather, we're gonna use a couple tablespoons of oil, 2 tablespoons of butter. Make sure that you use unsalted butter. Okay, you don't have to use butter if you don't want to. If you want to make it even healthier, just use more oil. Okay, we're going to use 6 garlic cloves minced, about 1.5 pounds of shrimp, deveined and shelled with the tails off, a little bit of salt and pepper, about 1/2 cup of white wine. Make sure you use a dry white wine though, like a Chardonnay or a Pinot. You don't want a Riesling or like a Gewürztraminer. They're a little too sweet. Then use a little bit of crushed red peppers, a couple tablespoons of lemon juice, and about 1/4 cup of parsley. Okay. So the shrimp that you see here in the bowl, these are probably large to extra large shrimp. But all shrimp, when you buy them, they have a range of numbers on the package. So it'll be 16 to 20. 21 to 25, 26 to 30, and so on. What that means is that's how many shrimp of that size that it takes to equal 1 pound. So when you see 26-30, it takes 26 to 30 shrimp in that size to equal 1 pound. So the lower the number range is, the bigger the shrimp are. So if it's only 16 to 20, it only takes that many to equal 1 pound, so they'll actually be a little bit bigger. These, I think, I want to say they're 21, 25. This is the size I generally use for salads, but yeah. All right, so we're going to come over here now, and we're going to come to our pan, and we're going to get this on a nice medium heat, okay? I'm going to add a little bit of oil and a couple tablespoons of the butter. You can use vegan butter if you want to on this. I'm not the biggest fan of the taste of vegan butter personally, but you could. I'll add my oil here. So as I mentioned though, yeah, olive oil right now is getting very expensive. So definitely try out some of those other oils, especially ones that are more durable, like the sunflower oil. That's a very durable oil. Avocado oil is a really good oil. Peanut oil is a good oil too. It does impart a little flavor though, Coconut oil is a good oil. It's a little fattier though than the typical oil, and that can definitely impart some flavor. So if you want to get coconut oil but don't want the flavor, get the refined coconut oil. Okay, that definitely won't give you that flavor. All right. All right. Any questions though to this point? Please feel free to chime in. Okay. So once this gets hot, we are going to add our garlic here and get that going. Let that cook for about 30 to 45 seconds. So when it comes to garlic, all right. So I know it's a lot easier to buy garlic that's already chopped up and in that jar. I highly suggest that you do not do that. Okay. You don't know when that garlic will, so things are at their freshest when they're whole. Okay. So for instance, when we think about spices, if you buy, like I do, if you buy whole spices at the grocery store and then grind them up at home on your own, you'll get, 12 months to 18 months usage out of that. When you buy them already ground, the moment you open up that package, you got 6 months to maximize that flavor. Now think about back at our old house homes, or even in our own homes, when we think about what's in that spice cabinet and how long it's been there. Yeah, like I know we don't want to spend that extra money, but the flavor is not going to nearly be as good. Okay, so be careful with that. Now with the garlic though, like I said, you don't know how long it's been sitting in that brine, so the quality of it is not going to be very good. Okay, so just be careful with that. Now garlic is very important in how our body functions, but I always say, if garlic was a real person, we would be in a serious relationship. Like that's how much I love garlic. That's how much I love garlic. All right, so we got our garlic in here. I'm gonna let that go for about 30 to 45 seconds. Now I try not to keep garlic in the pan very long by itself because it will burn. So, but with this nonstick pan, you have less of a chance for that to happen. Okay. I'm gonna let that go for a few more minutes.
So Chef,
I
someone
just
is
thought,
asking, what about
Hmm?
cholesterol and saturated fat in the healthy oils?
Now that's where you gotta be careful with that, because certain oils, like coconut oil, for instance, I don't use it very often because it does have a high fat content. So I would do your research on that. Some of them do have higher content. Definitely the coconut, that one stands out to me the most. The other ones I can't say offhand that is higher than normal, but not from what I know. No. All right, so we got that in. Now we're going to add our shrimp here. Okay, we're going to add a little bit of salt and pepper to this as well. Like I love the smell of garlic heating up. It's a very beautiful thing. Very beautiful thing. All right, so add a little salt here. A little bit of pepper here as well. All right, and we're going to let it cook for about a minute or two on each side. And because it's shrimp, of course, it won't take very long for it to cook at all. Now, if you want to expedite that process, just put a top on it. That'll be fine too. I think we'll do that here. And while that's happening, let me go check on our Brussels sprouts. Okay, generally, if you get smaller Brussels sprouts, I would follow that time frame that I put on the recipe of 15 to 20 minutes. Mine were a little bit bigger, so mine's going to take probably another 5 minutes or so. So I would say 25 to 30 minutes, give or take. But you want them to be nice and tender. Okay.
So Chef, someone is asking regarding the scampi recipe, is it okay to use garlic powder in lieu of regular garlic?
First of all, Dr. Hall, I'm cooking gesture for me, and I have to eat all this food So I completely understand. Trust me, but trust me, it would not go to waste. So yeah, you could use garlic powder, but nothing beats garlic. Like nothing beats the fresh flavor of garlic. So are you not using it because it's too harsh for you?
Actually, it's not that. I'm just basically just asking for a substitute, because I'm always thinking
Okay.
about certain substitutions for certain things. So that's why I was
Oh, I
asking.
got you. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, nothing beats fresh garlic, but could you use garlic powder? Sure. You definitely could. So now what I do with garlic, this is a couple things I do. Like I tell you, man, I love garlic. So a couple things that I do to that have the benefit of not only muting the flavor, but kind of changing the flavor is this. And I'll come right back to this. Let's just turn our shrimp over real quick. You got for about a minute and a half on one side. We'll turn it over, let it cook on the other side, then we'll start to add the other ingredients, okay?
Chef Cordell, I'm
All
sorry
right.
to keep asking
Yes.
questions,
No, oh, no, no,
but
no, 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 please, go ahead.
yeah, the reason why I'm saying it because these are some of the things I do when I'm cooking. So I'm asking these questions based on those things. So like you did the what is the garlic clove or whatever. So what
Mhm.
about the minced garlic? Like this come from the store, the minced garlic. Is
That's what
that
I was saying. Stay away, stay away, stay away, stay away, stay away. I know it's a convenient thing to do, but stay away from that because you don't know when that garlic was chopped. You don't know how long it's been sitting in that brine. Like it wouldn't surprise me if it sat there for a year, six months. So you're not going to get that same flavor. If you're looking to make garlic easier to deal with, just buy the already peeled garlic. That's fine.
okay?
But
Okay.
I would not recommend the minced garlic at all. But yeah, please ask as many questions as you need to. That's what the whole class is for. So please. So now with the garlic, this is what I do. I'll roast my garlic sometimes. So I'll take the whole head like this. So this is the root end. This is the shoot end. So I cut off the shoot end enough to expose the bulbs on the inside, right? So then I'll take this, put this face down in a baking dish with some oil at the bottom, just enough to cover it up. Roast it in the oven at 350 for about 25 minutes. After that, just squeeze on the sides like this, squeeze on the sides, and it should be soft. Take it out, let it cool off for at least 10 minutes. After it cools off, you can take it from the bottom and squeeze it, and it'll come out like butter. And it's a beautiful thing, beautiful thing. So 325 to 350 for about 25 minutes, face down with the shoots exposed, with the bulbs exposed rather, in a dish with a little bit of oil at the bottom. So that's one way. Another way to get more instant garlic flavor, what I'll do after I mince my garlic up, put just a little bit of salt on it, add enough water to barely cover it, like so. And what we're going to do is create a paste. So you pull all that together and just push with your knife as you're just dragging this, okay? So all you're doing is dragging this. And what happens is it turns into this beautiful, beautiful gel. And you can just take this and put that directly into your dish. It quickly brings a lot of flavor out of the garlic, okay? All right, so our shrimp now has been going for a couple minutes on each side to this point. And now we're going to add our white wine. Like I said, use a dry white wine. Don't use a sweet one. It's not going to taste the same at all, okay? Oh, when it comes to wines, do not, and I repeat, do not buy cooking wines. Those are not the same as regular wine. Whatever wine that you normally drink, use that when you cook. Do not go out of your way to buy cooking wine. They've had other things added to them, so the flavor is not going to be the same. Okay. So if you like that $4 chunk, please feel free to use that. No problem at all. No problem. All right. So now at this point, I'm adding my wine. I'm gonna add some red pepper flakes here, and we'll be done in about 10, 15 minutes tops, okay? I know we started a few minutes later. So I got my red pepper flakes in there as well. We're gonna bring this to a simmer and cook for about another minute or two, or until the wine has reduced by half. Okay, that's all we're gonna do. And at that point, we're gonna then add our parsley, the rest of our butter, and some lemon juice, okay? That's all we're gonna do. All right, any questions to this point? Please feel free to add. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question about
Yes.
the alcohol, well, the wine, because I'm sure
Mhm.
we have to let people know they can't drink. But how does that affect the alcohol level in the food when it's cooked? Does that reduce the alcohol level in it?
Oh no, it doesn't. You cook it off, so like it doesn't.
Okay, I don't drink alcohol, but I just want to make sure.
Oh yeah. You will not get drunk or tipsy off of this. I promise. I promise. It'll definitely cook that out. So, which is part of the reason why you want to that you want to reduce it. So yeah. But that's a great question, though. Great question. Any other questions though to this point? All right, so we'll finish this off here, then we'll move on to our last dish, which is our pistachio nut pesto fettuccine. All right. So in this recipe, we're going to use an 8-ounce box of fettuccine. We're going to use about an ounce container of fresh basil leaves, about a half cup of pistachio nuts, lightly or non-salted. Okay, that goes back to being able to control what we can. About a half a cup of grated parm, a few garlic cloves. We're also going to need 1 lemon, a little bit of salt and pepper, and some oil. Joyce, I missed that.
Okay, someone would like to know if it is worth it to purchase organic garlic.
Okay, let's talk about this. Let's talk about that. Okay, so and write this down. There is a list called the Dirty Dozen. What the Dozen list is a list of about 15 to 20 foods that you absolutely have to buy organically because they're highly, highly sprayed. Now, garlic is not on that list. And I think that that's one big misconception about healthy eating. So, to become certified organic, you have to pay money to get that designation. Now, because you may not pay that money, does not necessarily mean that your stuff wasn't grown in a healthy and organic way. Okay. But people think that everything has to be organic. Not everything, but let's say strawberries is for sure, celery, green beans, spinach, most dark green leafy vegetables, tomatoes, blueberries, different things like that. Yes, you definitely want to, but everything does not have to be. What I generally do when I get my stuff home, so what I'll do is I'll either make a solution in a bottle or fill up my clean sink with these things. So I'll get 3 parts distilled water to 1 part vinegar. So whether it's apple cider vinegar, white vinegar, but I wouldn't use like a balsamic vinegar, like a regular thing like that, a specialty vinegar, but use one of those, mix it up in a bottle, or clean out your sink, and I clean my produce with that. So once again, 3 parts distilled water, 1 part vinegar, whether it's white vinegar, apple cider vinegar, like what have you. I am sorry, Miss Turner. I have not created the scratch and sniff TV screen yet, so I cannot tell you when dinner is. But once I do, I promise you, I will let you know. All right. All right. So I hope that answers your question, though. So now back to our scampi here, then we'll hop back to our pesto. We have got that to a boil. We've reduced the wine down some. So now what we're going to do, we're going to take this off the heat. We're going to add our butter, our parsley. That's our parsley there. Add our other tablespoon of butter here. And I'm also going to add some lemon juice here as well. Okay. Give me 1 second. Sorry, my screen went out. Okay. Oh, it smells so good, man. Mm. I wish you guys could be here to enjoy it though, but maybe we'll have an in-person session at some point where we can do samples for you. All right, so this is our shrimp scampi here. I'm going to plate this though with the fettuccine once that's done. So I'm gonna put this off to the side here just for a bit. We'll come and do the fettuccine, and then we'll add that all together. All right, and then we'll be all done. Okay, so we've gone through the ingredients for the fettuccine. Okay. So the first step is to cook the pasta according to the package directions, which I've already done here. Okay. Now, one thing about this, so I cook my pasta ahead of time. So to assemble this dish, I have a small pot of water that you can't see right now getting hot, so I can reheat my pasta very quickly. Okay. Now, when you're making pasta, especially when you're going to have a sauce with that pasta, one of the most important things that you can do is as you're cooking your pasta, you want to take a small bowl once it's done and take out about a cup or so of pasta water. That pasta water is very starchy because the pasta is starchy. So starchiness helps things to stick more. So if you're going to cook pasta and you're going to add some sauce to it once it's done, before you dump that pasta water, take about a cup of it, maybe two cups just to be safe, but at least a cup, take it off, put it to the side. Once you reheat your pasta with your sauce, add that pasta water to it. Now that sauce will better stick. Okay. Now, also, if you want your pasta sauce to stick to your pasta, do not add oil to the water. Oil is the enemy when it comes to making things stick because oil is slick, right? That makes sense. So that's how you want to do that part, okay? All right, so now we're gonna pasta done. We'll put this off to the side. Okay. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna grab our blender here. I have this is one of my small Ninja cups. Now I'm not big on gadgets, but you gotta have a good blender. Absolutely have to have a good blender. We are too old to have Oster blenders at this point. Okay, nothing wrong with them, but we're too old to have Walmart pans. If we're going to invest in our health, part of it does involve having quality cookware. Hugely important. Okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add some of our pasta water to this, about a half a cup or so to my blender here. Okay. Now, while that's going, what I'm going to do, what you can't see, I'm going to take my pasta noodles and put them into my pot that I have boiling here just to reheat them. Okay. So I'm gonna turn that pot off now because the noodles are already cooked. I just need them to get hot. All right, so I got my pasta water in, and then we're gonna add everything else into the blender with the exception of the oil. And we're gonna create our pesto base here, okay? So pesto is typically with pine nuts. I'm not a big fan of pine nuts personally, so I switched it out and I do pistachios. I like that a whole lot more. Okay. All right, so we got some basil in there. And if you want to go heavy on the basil, that's completely okay. Completely okay. Yes, was that a question? I'm sorry.
No, there are no questions in the chat at this point.
All right, gotcha, cool. So I got my basil in, adding my pistachio nuts here as well. Okay. Got my garlic cloves, which are already chopped up. Now I would say, chop the cloves up a little bit. You want the blender to do most of the work for you, but chop them up a little bit. Okay. You want to add next our Parmesan cheese. Okay. Try to get freshly grated if you can. We already added our garlic cloves. We're going to add some lemon juice to this next. Okay. A little bit of salt and pepper here. And then we are going to blend this up until it's smooth, okay? I'm gonna put you on mute here for about 30 seconds so you won't hit the blender. I'll be right back. Okay, so we got our mix here. It's a little thick right now, which is perfectly fine. We're going to add a little bit of oil to it to thicken it up, okay? Now, at this point, you want to taste this, okay? Because this is going to be the base of our sauce. So if you feel like you need more sweetness or more garlic, adjust the flavors accordingly. Okay, get it to where you want it, because after we add the oil, that's it. So I have this the way that I want it, and what I'm now going to do is add my oil. Now, if you have a blender that has a top to it, you want to put this back on the blender, get it going, open up the top, and then gradually add your oil to it, okay? If you don't, we're going to use about a half a cup of oil, so I would say maybe add a quarter cup first, blend that up, and then come back and add another quarter cup and blend that up as well, okay? I'll put you on mute for a few more seconds, and I'll be right back. Okay, so now we got that done. I'm gonna take a look at our sauce here, see how it looks.
So Chef,
Yeah, we
just a
got the
general question about the recipes that you've demonstrated for us today. Would they feed about 4 people? Would each one of these recipes be for about 4 people?
I would say yes. You may have to add a little bit more Brussels sprouts, but overall, I would say yes.
Okay.
And maybe a little more shrimp too, but yeah. Yeah, I'm generally writing for 2 to 4, so.
Okay, 2 to 4.
All right. Okay, so we got our bowl there. I'm just gonna dump the water off of my pasta here because it's already reheated. And then I'm gonna add that to my pesto sauce, okay? And then we'll be done. Okay, so I got my my pasta here. I want to add this to my bowl. Okay. This is going to be a fantastic lunch, I tell you that much. All right. Got that there. I'm going to add now my pesto sauce. Look at that. Oh, Ms. Woods, thank you for that. I really appreciate that. I hope that my passion for it does come off very much so. I really do appreciate that. Thank you. All right, so now we got our pesto our pistachio rather, pesto fettuccine. And as I said, I'm going to now plate the rest of this up, but I'm going to add my shrimp to this. Okay. Look at that.
Looks good.
All right. Oh, well, thank you. Now, once we add the shrimp to it, we'll have over here. Now we already got the pesto sauce on it, but I'm gonna be a little greedy, and I'm gonna take some of this scampi sauce and put that on top just a little bit there. Okay. We're gonna take some of our sprouts here. Some nice brown color on those as well. All right. So we've already shown our Mediterranean chicken, but here we have our shrimp scampi, our pistachio nut fettuccine, and also our roasted Parmesan Brussels sprouts, okay? So I hope that in this hour's time, we have learned a few things and understand that not only can we put together healthy and delicious meals, we can also do it in about 30 minutes time, okay? So do we have any questions? Any questions at all? All right, well, thank you for your time. I definitely appreciate it. Once again, you can find me online at www.chefcordell.com. That's www.chefcordell.com. You can also reach me by phone at 980-858-CHEF. That's 980-858-2433. If you want to send me like an email, that's fine. You can also do that at info@chefcordell.com. But thank you very much for your time. I definitely appreciate it. I hope that you enjoyed the rest of your day, and I hope it took you a chance to see you guys soon, okay?
Thank you,
Take
Chef.
care.
Thank you.
Chef. Thank you.
Thank you, Chef. It was
Thank
excellent.
you.
Thanks, Chef.
Sure, thank you. Joyce, can you stay on, please?
Yes, I can.
Yes.
All right, great. Thank you. And the other person too, who was supposed to be moderating with you.
Okay.